Wow. 2,000 plus views in one video. If I have 100 subs by the time this comes out, this will be a 100 sub special. So if I have 100 subs, then 100 subs. I can't believe it. I can't say that with as much emotion because I don't have 100 subs yet. Now, I know you guys would love to see me make well-scripted informational content, considering, like, the 52 comments. Oh, it's more like 30, 40, because I responded to a lot of them. But I know I can just, like, talk about some cool stuff in PVZ1, and for those of you who aren't too familiar with PVZ1 but are interested in getting into it, this will help you a lot. I'm talking about how the worlds progress, and how it's actually really well designed. The day levels in PVZ are a great first section for the game, and the tutorial is about the best tutorial you can get. As the game gets more introduced, you get extra lanes to use your powers, and also introduces Sunflower, Pea Shooter, Cherry Bomb, and Walnut during the tutorial. All of these serving like the 3 main niches plus Sunflower, but Sunflower isn't really a niche, it's just literally a plant you have to use until you get Sunshroom. But only when you can use Sunshroom. Don't use Sunshroom with Coffee Bean, it's bad unless you have a challenge. The one where you use only mushrooms in a day level. Sunflower also sort of introduces the world plant niche, where a particular plant is necessary to succeed in even a single level, often being forgoed for certain achievements, like the one with mushrooms, as I just said. Now, the plant progression doesn't end there. We have Chomper, Creeps 20, Watch It, and there's also higher cost upgrades to Pea Shooter, and they synergize. Snow Pea synergizes with all attackers at base, but it still counts. And it also has the most iconic minigame in Walnut Bowling. Vase Breaker might be more iconic, I'm not sure. It has a mode in PVZ too, so I feel like the broadest range of the community is going to be more aware of that. But I still think it's fairly iconic. And in terms of the zombies, we have 1 special zombie as well as the 3 basic zombies. Pole Vaulter is weird. I don't like it as a special zombie, but I like it as an introduction to special zombies. It works really well at teaching you that you're going to be experiencing zombies that can do more than just eat. And finally, there's Ultimate Battles. And I'll be honest, they're far from the hardest parts of the game, and are more just to show off the world's plants and let you feel awesome. Oh, and also explode your DS if you happen to have that version of the game. 310 has crashed my game twice on my DS. Yeah, I know. And overall, well, it's a great world, and also a great introduction to the game as a whole. Now, we have the same lawn, but it introduces mechanics that will be built off of in almost every single world. It starts off with the name of the world, Night, where no sun falls, and in exchange you have access to some of the cheapest firepower in the game, one of which being free, another of which being a 75 sun infinite pierce plant, one being a potato mine that slows down the lane for 75 sun, as well as the final evolution of an Insta. I know that for those of you who haven't played that much PVZ1, it might seem that, well, Primal Potato is pretty absurd, as it's 50 sun for a Cherry Bomb. This is 5x5 Insta for 125 sun. Yeah, I know. It creates a crater. That's not enough. A lot of the times you're going to be placing this, you won't be planting plants that far anyway. And it's just another spot for graves to not spawn. Speaking of graves. Graves! Which are tiles you can't plant on, summon zombies on flag waves, and have a dedicated plant dedicated to countering them in some way. Pay attention, this will be important later. Now, in terms of zombies, it's got a lot more than the first world, partly because it's not introducing basics. It's got Newspaper, a zombie mainly used to screw up your early game, as it can tear through your mushrooms if you let it. There's also All-Star, which is dedicated to providing the same speed, but with scaled health for late game. I've had struggles with this, although late game is never particularly difficult. Except in Endless, where it's always late game, and you're going to be using your cob cannons. And there's Dancing Zombie, which is just used to increase wave size. And there's Screen Door. And Screen Door is just incentivizing fume shrooms, which why wouldn't you be using fume shrooms? It's night, and they have infinite pierce for 75 sun. It also makes catapults a bit more interesting, but we'll talk about that during the roof section. Now, there's also MJ, which you can't actually find in any actual levels. It's exclusive to mods, and it's just a stronger dancing zombie. Now, the next two worlds have a different lawn, both building upon at least one mechanic of Night, making Night one of the most important worlds to get right, because the entire rest of the game is based on what it does. Now, this world is in day, and as well as having a bigger lawn, it also has, well, its namesake, the pool. It's 2 columns going through the center, and when I said columns, I meant to say rows. Now, listen to this description of the pool. Certain tiles you can't plant on that summon zombies on flag waves with a plant that can counter them. There's one difference from graves, though, and it's a big one. Zombies can still spawn on pool tiles with lily pads. Zombies do tend to spawn closer to the middle, because it could be devastating if they could spawn super far in. If your attackers are there, and they break through to your attackers. If your sun producers are there, then it's not defended. I know there's instas, but let's say you forgot to bring an insta, which you shouldn't, or all your instas are cooled down. Now, the plants are another pea shooter variant designed to work with and counter the extra tiles, several instas, 2 oddly just being a slightly adjusted potato mine, tall nut to counter a new zombie, as well as Spikeweed. Now, it's time to add another video to your creep's queue. Is Spikeweed video. Don't worry, there's only 2 more left. Wait, I said it Spikeweed video. I meant to say in his Spikeweed video. Don't worry, there's 2 more left. Oh, that's Torchwood, everyone's favorite gimmick plant. Except me, I'm the garlic guy. Basically, it just makes some peas stupidly good. Gives them splash. And double damage. Now, the zombies are Scuba. Oh, what do you know? Another Creeps video. As well as Zomboni, which is a predecessor to Gargantuar. That's a bit different and honestly might warrant their own video as to why they warrant differences. And also Bobsled, which might get covered in the video with Zomboni. We also have Dolphin, aforementioned reason to bring a tall nut. Now, I'd say that this might be my favorite world because the extra tiles add so much variety, making it perfect for minigames like Last Stand and Endless. Oh, Fog. I have mixed feelings about this world. It's great in terms of progression, you know, the entire subject of this video. It also has the most underrated song in all of PVZ. But also, it's so annoying. Like, obscuring vision? Why? Now, it builds off Night well, adding another mechanic that, is like Graves. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to have their counter plants to be used. But its zombies are horrible, and it's full of filler plants. There are only 2 plants worth mentioning. Pumpkin, which is actually awesome, and you'll see it in my garlic video, as well as Starfruit, which if you aren't as in-depth on PVZ1, then the gist of it is that it's an amazing plant for 2 main reasons. You can cover about 2 tiles of every lane besides the one directly in front of it. Its damage is absurd, and while it can't cover too far forward, it certainly can deal with the columns it has access to. And the zombies? F*** the zombies. 2 zombies that require specific plants to counter. None of the other zombies need their counters. Like, for example, you don't need to bring Tall Nut to deal with Pole Vaulter. It's just better. Now, you can, as an example, like that, you can deal with pretty much every other zombie in the game, besides these 2, without their counters, being Starfruit and Split Pea, or Blover and Cactus. Jack is fine, and while Pogo is annoying, it is also fine, and doesn't need Tall Nut. You are gonna need Tall Nut, though, in, Pogo Parade, or whatever it was. And also, technically, you don't need the counter for Balloon and Digger, but instas I don't think are consistent enough to deal with stuff, and Cob Cannon is basically only usable in survivals. Now, I will say that Yeti Zombie is pretty cool. I don't even remember if I have the Almanac entry on computer, but I can prove that I have that in my DSiWare version. Yeti is just a cool zombie and has kind of become very iconic, being the most annoying zombie boss in the Garden Warfare games. The roof levels are amazing. Like, I'm just gonna say it. Like, it's not controversial, the song's super iconic, and while the zombies aren't very known among the wider PVZ community besides Gargantuar, I just think it's a great world and deserves the love. Now, in terms of the progression, it does super well. Now, every tile on the lawn you can't plant on spawns zombies on flag waves, and it's a plant designed to counter it. However, you might think that because you need Umbrella Leaf to counter Bungee, and I was upset about the fact that you need some plants to counter Balloon and Digger, that I wouldn't like it. But there's two key differences. One is that Bungees are a mix of an ambush and a special, and can be killed in their special form. But also, it would be like me being mad at Graves in Night, even though they entirely define the world outside of Night. And one of my biggest complaints about Fog is that it has too many world plants. You basically need to use 4 seed slots, maybe more, before you can even make your build. Now, the roof has 2, and one of them counters catapult zombies. This is how you do multiple world plants. Now, the catapult plants are interesting, besides Cabbage being entirely outclassed by Kernel Pole, since they're the same cost, but the Kernel also has slowdown. It also gives you Coffee Bean, Umbrella, Marigold, and Garlic. That's right, upon having a great Zong... I said Zong! Okay, I'm not gonna put that in the blooper section, because, I don't know, I just want to keep that in the actual video. And that's right, upon having a great song... Got it right that time. Perfect progression, and one of the best final bosses, it has Garlic, my favorite plant in the game, or at least my favorite non-attacker. Now, you're probably screaming at me, not mentioning the other main... Okay, so autocorrect made it say finish. The main gimmick of the roof, so don't worry, here it is. The other gimmick of the roof is the roof. Now, the one thing you can count on for every roof in the standard middle-class suburban household in the US is that it is slanted. The slant makes the shooter plants not work until lane 6, and to hold up that lane, you'll probably need 3-peat or a Gatling P, and this emphasizes the catapult plants, which have some interesting mechanics such as countering newspaper, screen door, in a different way than AoE by simply lobbing onto the zombies' heads. Also, most notably, counters Creeps 20's buddy Scuba. Overall, I think the slant does a really good job at making the roof more unique than just the level 5 PVZ world. Now, I still don't like it as much as the pool, but I still do enjoy it a lot. Now, as would be mentioned in my Garlic video, there's one more thing I'd like to mention. PVZ 2, in my opinion, has a lot less well-designed progression, but I think it's fine for 2 major reasons. 1, it's a much bigger game, and having every world develop on the last would get pretty weird. Like, you can't pass Roof in terms of progression. PVZ 1 stopped at Roof because it hit the limit to the convention set by the previous worlds. Yes, I know mods have done stuff like Full Pool or Pots on the Ground, but for all intents and purposes, it's just Roof with a little bit changed. Now, the original design of the game was made where you have to choose the world order, so having progression wouldn't be kept in mind while the game was originally being designed. Now, there are a few things that we can take away from this video if you'd like to make your own game with similar progression to PVZ. Have no gimmick and a tutorial that slowly introduces complexity into the game in some way. Have 1 to 2 major mechanics, 1 to be expanded on in every world, and 1 to be something unique to the world, or something to make a future world more interesting and brought back. Progress the mechanics in any amount of worlds. It could be a bunch of worlds if you have opportunities, but it could just be like 3 or 4. And maybe have more in-depth and longer worlds if you just have like 3 or 4, or 2, or even just 1 more. And 4, have the final world be either the full progression mechanic, or of at least pretty close, and bam, that's the style of PVZ 1. Now, here's a blooper reel on just the roof section, because I don't know why I just messed up so many times. And it also has Coffee Bean, Umbrella, and Marigold, and as well, and Garlic. That's right, oh my god. Now, the roof does 2, and one of them counters catapult zombies. And yeah, I was off on the tone there, but I'm gonna keep it in. Never mind. Now, I think it perfectly follows the progression so far. Now, every tile you can't plant on spawns zombies on flag waves and has a plant designed to counter it. If you'll notice, oh my god, Christ. The roof levels are amazing.